We live in a culture trained to expect forgiveness from our products. If an interface is clumsy or a feature breaks, the manufacturer can simply push an over-the-air firmware update. The code compiles, the flaw vanishes, and we move on. But physical objects are entirely immune to that kind of digital forgiveness. You cannot ship and iterate a stamped piece of sheet metal or a molded dashboard. Once the physical geometry is locked and manufactured, it is completely unchangeable. When you postpone a difficult physical decision, you accrue something called design debt. This is the unavoidable financial and experiential interest a company pays for hard choices they defer. Because the physical world flatly refuses to be patched, industrial design operates as an ecosystem of extreme, front-loaded risk. Every choice made at the very beginning carries massive permanent consequences. This chart shows how that risk compounds, illustrating an industry standard known as the 110-100 rule. Catch a fundamental design flaw during the initial sketch phase, and the cost to alter that concept is a baseline of $1. If that exact same flaw survives the sketch and makes it into the engineering and prototyping phase, the financial penalty to fix it multiplies by a factor of 10. And if you wait to solve the problem until after the tooling is cut and manufacturing begins, the cost to fix that original error skyrockets exponentially to 100 times the baseline. The math is brutal. Between 70 and 80% of a physical product's entire final cost and its ultimate character are permanently locked in before a single sheet of metal is ever stamped. A beautiful digital rendering can easily obscure a flawed map of priorities. The invisible, highly manual work done in the concept phase is where the true value of an object is definitively made or lost. Look at the challenge of designing an eVTOL, an electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. This is the first entirely new vehicle typology the world has seen in 80 years. There is no historical blueprint to copy, no agreed-upon silhouette. Designers are forced to engineer a nervous stranger's absolute trust strictly through the physical geometry of a machine they have never seen before. Even when reinventing a known legacy, the challenge remains structural. When Lexus began developing an electric successor to the legendary LFA sports car, they had to isolate the irreducible core of the vehicle as the underlying technology changed entirely. For a decade, people assumed the soul of the LFA was its screaming V10 engine. But translating that legend to a modern battery architecture means realizing the true core was always an obsessive, function-first honesty. You have to carry that honesty forward, rather than faking an engine that no longer exists. This logic applies directly to the newest wave of AI hardware. Take the screenless OpenAI companion device currently being developed by Jony Ive. It faces what designers call the Luxo lamp problem. Without a face or a touchscreen interface to communicate through, a device's entire personality is dictated by its permanent physical form and its motion. Whether you are creating a completely new category of flight or giving AI a physical body, identity is an architectural choice. You have to solve it at the very beginning. For a century, a silent cabin was the ultimate signal of an expensive car, requiring massive engineering to muffle a combustion engine. Today, electric vehicles make silence free and standard. With noise out of the equation, perceived quality shifts entirely. It is a measurable physical property rooted in the density of materials and spatial calm, rather than a list of digital features you can tap on a screen. Feel the micron-scale difference between touching an aluminum dial and a plastic one. The aluminum feels colder, heavier, denser. Premium feel relies on the strict laws of physics. The ultimate foundational proof of that identity is called the shadow test. Before a single headlight is drawn or a trim piece is finalized, a design must be instantly recognizable by its pure silhouette alone. If the black outline fails, the design fails. Generative AI has collapsed the cost and time of creating concept images to near zero, but endless generation exposes human taste and judgment as the actual bottleneck in the design process. True premium value is generated by early human judgment and deliberate subtraction. It is never achieved by software automation or a glossy finish applied at the end. A concept model is not a rough draft. It is not a preview. It is a rigid, highly expensive public commitment to a specific future reality. A brand's ultimate identity is defined heavily by restraint. Bloat wins by default unless someone decides exactly what a product will deliberately refuse to be. Take the skateboard chassis of a modern EV. By pushing the wheels to the absolute corners of the frame, engineers permanently define the object's proportions, homogenizing or defining the car before a designer ever picks up a pen. Simplicity, negative space, and the physical texture of a dial cannot be retrofitted. They are structural elements that must be architected from the very first decision in the studio. You can patch a line of code. You have to live with the physical world. This is the foundational truth of Depix design intelligence. Decisions are cheap as a sketch, brutal once tooled. See every angle before you build.